Hey, what's going on, guys? Tom Advetich here, and today I'm going to be kicking off episode 1 of a new series that I'm calling Behind the Shot, where, as you might guess, we're going to go behind the scenes and we're going to be talking about lighting, equipment, all the details and logistics, mindset, everything that goes into a shoot, whether it's a celebrity shoot or a commercial still life product shoot, and everything in between. So I thought, why not start this series with one of the greatest athletes ever and probably the most famous person that I've ever shot, and I can set the bar impossibly high for myself. So, so that person is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, LeBron James. So Slam Magazine reached out to me and wanted me to shoot LeBron for the cover. So this was at a time when LeBron was going from the Heat back to the Cavs. This was 2014, and this was huge news in the sports world because he had famously left the Cavs to go to Miami, and now he's going back to Cleveland to try and bring a ring home for the land, as it says on the cover. And I knew it was going to be crazy on this particular shoot because it was at Media Day. I had never done a Media Day before, but I knew that there was going to be a million people everywhere, and especially with this news about LeBron, it was going to be like times 10. So most editorial athlete shoots that I had done were much more intimate in terms of the environment. So with editorial stuff, you're basically either doing a very quick shoot with somebody or you're piggybacking off of a larger commercial job. That way, the athlete who has a very busy schedule can just knock out a couple things at one time. There's other shoots I have done where someone's doing a Gatorade commercial or whatever, and then they pop onto your set for 5 minutes. You shoot them a bunch of different ways. You have a couple different seamlesses set up, a couple different lighting setups done, and they can bounce from one set to another, and you can get a ton of stuff in just a few minutes. This doesn't seem like a lot of time, but with athletes, they're such pros with this. They're so used to having their picture taken. It's literally like, it's mind-blowing how good at it they are. So I know that this is going to be crazy, and now I have to plan all the logistics that are going into shooting LeBron and knowing that I'm only going to have a few minutes with him in this insane media day. So the first thing you have to do is consider, where is the shoot? So in this case, the shoot is going to be in Cleveland. I live in New York City, so I know that I need to book a flight, I got to get a room, I need to find an assistant in Cleveland, and I have to get gear in Cleveland because obviously you can't always fly with a ton of gear. And for a shoot like this, where you know you're going to have a full seamless setup and you need a ton of stands, a bunch of lights, it's almost impossible to fly with this much gear. In this case, it was definitely impossible. It's like a whole cargo van full of stuff. And on an editorial shoot, a lot of times the budget is really small and you're going out of pocket to do this. In this case, that's exactly what was happening. So you get a little budget, but then sometimes you're like, I kind of need more gear than this. So let me rent some more lights and I'll just pay for it. So why would you want to go out of pocket for an editorial shoot? So there's a few reasons. So one is obviously the access to this person. You can't just call LeBron and say, hey dude, you want to do a quick little photo shoot? It just doesn't work that way. So taking this picture to a potential client, you can say, hey, I know how to work with high level talent, super famous people. I'm not going to fan out. I don't get stressed under pressure, and I can deliver high quality work in a very small amount of time. Another reason why is because you hope to parlay the shoot into some usage rights for a potential endorsement brand. What do I mean by that? So LeBron, for example, probably has 20 brands that he has endorsement deals with. Nike, I don't even know. Every brand under the sun, probably. You hope that they reach out to you and say, hey, we really like those pictures. Can we buy usage from you for those images? So in a lot of cases, that usage would more than cover what you already put into the shoot, and you might even make some extra money. And that's happened in the past several times, and it's always a gamble, but at the end of the day, again, just having the access to that person and getting them in your book is almost worth more than the money in a lot of cases. And it can open doors, which turns into actual jobs that pay you much more money. So that's a little bit of why you would do an editorial shoot where you're making little to no money, if not losing money, along with the pros of what comes from doing a shoot like that. So after deciding that you're going to do the shoot, you need to figure out the room, you need to figure out the flight. That's easy. Just find somewhere that's close to the location And you want to make sure you get there at least the night before. A lot of these jobs are a 24-hour turn and burn kind of situation where if you're doing the shoot on a Tuesday, you want to fly in Monday afternoon, make sure there's no delays with the flights, especially if you live in a place where there's inclement weather and it's winter time, for example. This shoot was in September, I believe, so it was fine. There was no bad weather or anything, but I flew in the night before. I made sure to just get there and just be in Ohio and not have any issues on the day of. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to stress yourself out. You don't want to put yourself in a position to fail. You want to put yourself in a position to succeed. So I got there pretty early. I linked up with a guy named Cody who is assisting me on the shoot. He's an awesome photographer and I'm super happy that he was able to help me out. He helped me get some gear from Dodd Camera. Shout out to Dodd Camera. They were super easy to deal with. If you're ever in Cleveland, reach out to them. They had a lot of really good gear and they helped me source everything that I needed for the shoot. I actually went by there the night before just to make sure everything was there. I had nothing else to do in Cleveland, so it was that and eat at Melt. If you've ever been to Cleveland and you've had the chance to eat at Melt, you know what I'm talking about. Man, that is quite the sandwich. Anyway, so the gear's all good. I go back to the room, chill out, try and go through the shoot in my head, exactly what I need to achieve, and just try and think of everything that could go wrong. Do I have backups of camera bodies? Do I have an extra lens? Do I have enough batteries? Do I have cards? Does the computer have enough room on it? Because I want to be able to shoot with no problems. Just go through the whole list of things that could go wrong, because when you're on location, you just have one chance to get it right and it's a lot of pressure. So if you're in your hometown in a studio and something goes wrong, you could just grab something from the equipment room. It's no problem. Or, I have extras of whatever I need in my studio. But when you're in a gym in Cleveland and you have 5 minutes with one of the most famous people on the planet, you can't f it up. So it's morning. Cody shows up with the van. We take the van to get the gear. We load it up. We get to the practice facility. That's where the media day is. As we went down the little driveway into the facility, you just saw vans, cars, trucks. Like, I've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely packed. You thought that they were actually playing a game. That's how many cars were there. And it was at that time that I knew it was going to be as crazy, if not crazier, than I had imagined. I'm kind of, again, trying to think of all the logistics, make sure we have everything. We have to now figure out where we're going to load into, who our contact is, and who we need to reach out to, all that stuff. And as I'm thinking about all this, I start thinking, wow, I really wish Jim Ice was here. Shout out to Jim Ice. So Jim is a homie who works for the NBA. He's traveled the world with all the top level NBA players and he's like super close with all of them. If Jim is here, I know that I'm in such good shape because I can ask him to sit on set with LeBron and make him just that much more comfortable. And that I know is going to translate through the pictures. And it's just gonna maybe even buy me another minute or two because he's just gonna be chilling and feel at home with Jim there amongst the insanity of the day and all the cameras in his face. As I had that thought, I actually saw Jim walk over and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I told Jim, please sit on set with me. Just give me a few minutes of your day if you can. And he said, no problem. So I was like, already I felt like I got this in the bag. Like that was the vote of confidence that I literally, you couldn't put a price on it, you know what I mean? So we load all our gear in, and practice facility in this case was basically 2 basketball courts next to each other, wall to wall. There's like 20 different stations for all the players to bounce around because every news outlet's there. Obviously, like I said, with LeBron switching teams again, people were going crazy. So there was Sports Illustrated, there was ESPN. I mean, literally you name it, everybody was there. We got our little corner and we started setting up our gear. So basically, you want to get everything set up, you want to do some test shots, and then the talent is going to come on set, give you a few minutes of their time, and just get the shot, and then they move on. So in this case, let's get into the gear. So I learned on a previous shoot a few years back to never, ever, ever use AC powered lights ever again. I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to talk about it more in another video, but it was such a lesson for me, and I cannot tell you how important it is to never, ever use AC power on a location shoot. Always, always, always rent a battery powered pack. always. In this case, I think we had B4s and we had 4 of them. So as you can see from this lighting diagram, again, this is a little rough, but you get the idea of what I did. This is more or less the base kind of template of lighting that I did with athlete shoots. I would almost always have rim lights to give some separation off the background when needed, and the main light would either be an octabank with a lot of diffusion, light diffusion, or no diffusion, and then I would often have a beauty dish to give a little extra pop or fill in the shadows on people's faces. In this case, I had a quarter stop silk, which goes in front of the octabank, and it just softens the light a little bit without it being too soft, and it's kind of like a nice happy medium. It's good to just give a little bit of more pop and more texture rather than being too soft. And in this case, I had the beauty dish as the main light because I wanted to have a really strong contrasty image, and I had the octabank as more of a fill light. So I had a quarter stop silk in front of that, so it wasn't too soft, but I really wanted it to look a little bit more contrasty and just give more shape to LeBron's face and all that. That's just the vibe I was into at the time. I also forgot to mention, on the rim lights, I had a medium strip bank on each of them. You could do rim lights with or without soft boxes. I just really like a very subtle rim light, and I only have it about a half stop to a full stop above the key light. And it depends on who you're shooting, their skin tone, their clothes. There's so many variables, the background color and brightness. So you kind of have to just mess with it a little bit while you're on set and just see what works for you. And for the camera, I was still using my Nikon D800 with a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. Probably never shoot Nikon again. I really didn't like this camera, but at the time it did what I needed it to do, which was give me a crispy, very high res file. It's fine. I just really didn't enjoy the menu on the camera and just the camera in general. It just really didn't do it for me, but it doesn't matter. It's just a tool. It got me the shots and they looked great for me, so I was really happy with it. And in terms of the actual process of shooting, I always shoot tethered. It gets a little tricky, especially back then, because of the computing power and the high-res files. It was always just a struggle to keep the camera connection stable, especially with a 15-foot cable along with another 15-foot extension. It was almost always a crapshoot with that, and it made me really nervous all the time, especially in these high-pressure situations. So whenever I could, I would just try to do one 15-foot cable straight from the camera to the computer and just pray that it worked. But more on tethering in another video because I have a lot to say about it since it's something that I deal with every day. So now I've got the lighting dialed in. You can see with this little behind the scenes video here of me and Cody getting the set up. I really wish that I had paid more attention to the behind the scenes camera because it cuts off before we're actually done. But you know, I wasn't planning on putting a YouTube video together 7 years later, so I apologize. After we get everything dialed in, I get some test shots of Cody, some test shots of dudes from the magazine, and various people who are floating around who I know. Then all of a sudden you see a swarm of cameras and you just know LeBron is in the middle of that swarm, and boy, oh boy, was that something to see. I literally have never seen anything like it. It was absolute madness. Just watching him kind of navigate the room and just do his thing, it was very exciting. I was super excited to have my few minutes with him. It was an interesting situation because, like I said, a lot of times you have more one-on-one time with the talent, and that's kind of a whole separate thing because you know that you're gonna have so much one-on-one time, so you have to consider what you're gonna talk about, how you're gonna make them comfortable, how you're gonna get what you need out of them, make them feel like this is easy, try and keep things moving along. But in this case, I know that it's like a plug and play thing where all these players are basically just going around the merry-go-round of photo sets and video sets. And I know that, again, LeBron has been in the league for I don't even know how many years at this point. So I know that he could just stand on set and just crush it in a few minutes. And I know I'm gonna get gold. I just knew it. So actually his PR guy came over to me, real serious guy, but super nice. And I was like, hey man, just introduce myself. Looking forward to shooting LeBron. It's gonna be great, whatever. I'm with Slam Magazine. And I'm like, can I get 10 minutes? Knowing that there's no way I'm gonna get 10 minutes. And he's like, I'll give you 5. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll take it. Cause there's been plenty of shoots where I've heard, my friends shooting someone for 1 or 2 minutes. And you have to get, 30 frames and you just pray that they're good. It's kind of crazy. You fly all the way to another state or whatever for 60 seconds with someone. It's absolutely nuts. So finally, LeBron is on the set next to mine. Jim Ice is on my set. He's on an Apple box, sitting there chilling, ready to go, just being the best person in the world. Jim, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it, man. Jim was there, ready to rock and roll. LeBron comes over. I introduce myself. Hey, what's up, man? My name's Tom. I'm with Slam Magazine. This is for the cover and a feature story. Obviously, this will be super quick. We just have one lighting set up, so we're just gonna shoot you for a few minutes, get a couple shots, and just get you in and out. He's talking to Jim. Jim's making him feel comfortable. I had a camera rolling behind me to capture the whole behind the scenes, which I didn't even remember until I started thinking about this video, and I accidentally dug up the footage. So I was super happy that I had that. And I'll play it now so you can see the behind the scenes and fast forward while I'm kind of narrating my thoughts going into this and everything. So we started with him sitting down because in my head, if I can get someone to sit, then that makes them physically smaller, but they'll be larger on the magazine cover, right? So it's technically full length because it's their whole body head to toe, but it's actually a little bit more detail because you're punched in a little bit, so to speak. So we get him sitting down, we get him standing up. I'm shooting with the 24-70 and I'm shooting wider and then moving in as well as zooming in and just getting probably like 50 millimeter and 70 millimeter mostly, and just trying to get a variety of images. And immediately when I start shooting him, I know that these are all gold because every single shot he was turning his head, putting his hands on his hips, crossing his arms, putting his foot on the ball, whatever. Like every single frame was pretty much usable. We got this and it's all gravy. I just need to make sure I hit all my mental checklist of what I want to get. I go in towards the end and I get some tight headshots. I feel pretty good about everything, like I said. I wanted to also make a note that I shot everything pretty much at f/16 because I knew that we were shooting more or less full length for most of it, so I don't need any shallow depth of field. We're on a black background. It's not like there's any artsy stuff going on. I like to kind of do a post-mortem on these shoots too, by the way. I like to think about what I did right and what I could have done better because you always learn something from every single shoot you do. So in this case, I felt like the one thing that I would have done differently, I would have had a second camera with a really wide open aperture, gotten some really nice shallow depth of field, tight headshots. That's the one thing that I wish I did differently. The reason why I didn't do that on set is because I was shooting at f/16 for the cover, and then if we switched that, we would have had to change all the lights, and you could technically have marked off all the settings on all the lights beforehand, but I was just super focused on getting the magazine what they needed, and I just was putting all my eggs in that basket, so to speak. I hope that makes sense. So at the end of the shoot, I probably had 7.5 minutes with him. I can't remember exactly how many frames I got. I'll put it in a little text box here or something. I thanked him for his time. I was just really happy with how everything came out. I thanked Jim for being awesome and just hanging out on set for a few minutes. Jim actually got some cool behind the scenes as well. It was just such an experience to shoot someone of such stature as LeBron, and I really appreciate Slam Magazine for having me do that shoot, and I was just really happy to be able to add someone like him to my book. Like I said, I like to do a little post-mortem at the end of the shoot. I was really happy with how I handled everything logistically. I got there in time, and all these little things seem so simple and so obvious, but they all matter. Like, logistics matters so much because you're a one-person show. I didn't have a producer. I didn't have an assistant flying with me. I was literally just by myself getting everything done and then linked up with Cody in Cleveland. We're a two-person show at that point, so it's still a very small operation. So you can see some more of the images that went into the magazine from this shoot with LeBron here. And shout out to John at Need Post for doing an awesome job on the retouching for these images. So that's gonna do it for this first episode of Behind the Shot. I hope you guys found this entertaining and informational. Let me know if you like this episode or if you hated it or whatever. Just let me know in the comments below. And if you wanna see more videos about other celebrity shoots or commercial product still life shoots. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.